Hi everyone, it's Bailey, aka That Blushing Book Girl, and I'm back today with another video. Today I am bringing you my Sci-Fi September TBR. This readathon was created by four lovely people here on BookTube, and I will link them all down below. I really recommend following them. And the point of this readathon is just to read as much science fiction as you can in September. Even if you read just one sci-fi book, you are technically participating. To give you some ideas, they created a bingo board that has a few different prompts for you. It's technically a Bing board because it doesn't go 5 across, but it's really helpful. If you go on the Discord, there's been a lot of people recommending things for the different prompts, and it's been such a great community. I have a really ambitious TBR for this. Well, I'll say I have a TBR and then a to maybe be read pile. I was originally going to try to go for a Bing on the bingo board, but I just decided to read as much science fiction as possible because it's not something I've read a lot of and something that I'm really interested in. I didn't know how interested in it I was until I read Ender's Game this year. Not to mention with my work, it's just great to have handful of different books that you know that are really successful in each genre. So let's jump into it. Let's start with my absolutely these 3 books will be read in September. The first book is Dune. This takes place on a desert planet and it follows Paul, who is the heir of some sort of noble family, and on this planet the only thing of value is what they call spice, which is some kind of drug that is supposed to make you live longer and have some sort of enhanced consciousness. I am reading this with Robin at Spicy Miso Ramen. I will link her down below as well. And we are planning to do a live show where we talk about this on September 15th. Now, I don't really know too much about this story. I've always kind of wanted to read it because when you think of science fiction, this always comes up. It's on every list. People know it so well. It's a classic. And also, I listened to a podcast called Last Podcast on the Left. It's wonderful, but not for everyone. And one of the hosts from that went off and did a side podcast where they exclusively talk about Dune. It's a deep dive into Dune. And I really want to listen to that podcast, but I feel like I should read the book first. Now, this one is chunky. It's 831 pages, and when I read this, it very well might be the biggest book I've ever read. I'm not sure on that. There are a few others that might be the biggest book I've ever read, but it's the biggest book I've read in years at the very least. I'm also doing another buddy read. We're going to read Binti. I will link that channel down below as well, but we're not doing any sort of live show for this. It's a very small, short story book. It follows Binti, who is the first of her people to ever be offered a spot at this prestigious university somewhere in the galaxy. But the university appears to be at war with some people, and she's not even sure if she's going to make it there alive because of this. I really like to not know too much about the books I'm reading, so all of my descriptions here are going to be really vague, but I know a little bit about it. This is part of a trilogy also, but like I said, it's really short. It's only 90 pages, so this will be a nice little break after Dune. And then the last of the books that I absolutely am going to read is Speaker for the Dead. This is the second book in the Ender's Game quintet, I think. I told my fiance that I would read these books. I read Ender's Game earlier this year. I absolutely loved it. It was a 5-star read, so I have high hopes for this book. I'm not going to say too much more about that because it'll totally give away what happened in the last one. So now let's move on to the absolute mess of books that I have that I possibly will read given the time. And these are in no particular order. I'm going to just grab what I feel like after I read these 3 books. The first of those books is A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor by Hank Green. I read his first book, An Absolutely Remarkable Thing, when it came out years ago, and I got this in December. It is signed I'm excited to read it. I just had my fiance read An Absolutely Remarkable Things so that we can read this together. It's also a large book, but I love Hank's writing, and I love Hank. I've loved him for a very long time. The next thing I have is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This is the whole Hitchhiker's series. I read the first book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, a few years ago. I really enjoyed it then, but I don't really remember it at this point. I know that the world explodes or is blown up, and that there's a really awesome depressed robot in this. But that's all I know, so I want to read it again and then have the rest of the story so I can continue it, because I know that's one thing that made me forget it, is that I didn't get to go on with the rest of the story at the time. So I have it all in one giant book. The next books I have are Illuminae and Gemina. I just found out there is another book and a half to this series, which I did not know. Once again, I'm not really sure what it's about. I know it's super hyped. I believe it's about some people who break up, but then they have to flee their homeworld, and they experience a slew of other troubles, and they're trying to hack emails and stuff to try to figure out the truth of what happened. And so it's all told in like correspondences and files and interviews and all sorts of things like that. I anticipate it to be a quick read, both of them, just because of the way it's written, but I could be proven wrong. Plus, I can't get over this cover. I found this copy used at my local bookstore, and when you take the cover off, it's got the coolest naked whatever, I don't know, cover. I also have Ready Player One to read. I read this a few years ago, but the ending eludes me. I keep trying to remember it, and I just know that I don't remember enough of it, so I need to reread it. I really enjoyed it, and I know most of what happens, so it should be a really quick read. But I know the movie's ending is different, so that did not help me out very much. But I need to reread this, because for Christmas, my dad got me this, and I need to remember what happened in the first one fully to go on to the second one. And I really enjoyed the story, so I hope that I get to it. Ready Player One takes place in the not-so-distant 2044, where everything in life pretty much happens through virtual reality. School, work, selling things, not too far off from what it is now. And the creator of this virtual world has made a competition through a series of clues that whoever wins the competition will inherit the world, the virtual reality world. But there's been no leads since the beginning of this competition, and at this point everyone's kind of given up and had a good laugh about it, except for Wade Watts and a few of his friends. There are those diehards that are still trying to figure it out, and he's one of them, and this follows his story. So I'm gonna be honest with you for a sec. I have a shameful little secret. For years, I have walked past this book, angrily so almost sometimes, because I hated the cover of this book so much. I hated the cover so much that I wouldn't even look at it to figure out what it was about. I knew that people loved it, but I just assumed I knew it, and I just hated the cover, and I never wanted to pick it up. Until this year, it got a new cover. And I, being the shallow person that I am, was finally interested. And I know a lot of people on BookTube would be absolutely aghast to hear me say this, but I wouldn't ever look at the cover of Cinder the way it was. I didn't even know this book was sci-fi. Let me tell you, I had no idea. I just knew that I hated that shoe cover. But this cover is so cool, and even though it's like the inside's cool, and I hate when they've got these like little spots off the cover, but this inside picture is so pretty. I found this book at Half Price Books, and I finally was like, all right, I'm gonna look into it, and I'm actually really interested. I was surprised they had a whole bunch of the old cover, but they had one of the new cover, and it's because it's got this little rip on the spine of the cover. I don't really care. I'm so excited. I'm a terrible person, so I might pick up this one. People hype it up a lot, the Lunar Chronicles, I know. And now that they've got all these new pretty covers, I hate myself sometimes. There's another book that I will absolutely read if it comes in from the library. I don't have high hopes, but I really hope it will. And that's Psalm for the Wild Bill. It just sounds so wonderful and so peaceful almost that it seems like it'll be a little bit of a break from some of the really heavy topics. I've also never read Becky Chambers, and I've heard great things, so I really hope this comes in. And then lastly, if I need another break, I say break, but this is a weird break, I will read Watchmen. I finally got my own copy, and the year that I read Watchmen for the first time, it was my absolute favorite book of the year. It's heavy, so it's weird that I would say it's a break. It's really a heavy book, but I really love it. And those are the books that I have to choose from in the month of September. I'm hoping for a really good reading month. I got a little bit of a head start. I just finished yesterday, I Married a Lizard Man. Wow. Yeah, I can't even believe I just said that. But I read it, I finished it, had some issues, but I fell in love with a lizard man. I did. So I don't know what to say about that. I hope you'll consider participating because it's going to be a fun time. Even if you're not active here on BookTube, you can join the Discord or you can participate on Twitter, I believe. And yeah, just try to read something sci-fi. If it's not something you normally read, just try one. But that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.